matter of fortnight from now, the Eagle Square in Abuja and other prominent venues in 28 states will be busy, witnessing the swearing-in of the president-elect and governors-elect. On the other hand, National Assembly members-elect will also take their oath of allegiance. But beyond the ceremony lies the challenge of governance. What are some of the areas that need urgent attention? But that is not the central focus today, but the threat of fake news to democracy and the role of the journalist. And my guest is John Mayaki, Country Director, Coalition for Good Governance and Economic Justice for Africa. I am Mie Ogede. Welcome. Contest for the principal offices of the 10th National Assembly has continued to attract the attention of APC supporters. Consigned APC Progressive Women for Good Governance and Sustainable Development in Nigeria at a briefing stated their choice of leadership for the would-be 10th Senate President. Let's hear from Salu Guanara.
The Women Support Group prides itself as well that is concerned about sustaining the progress made in the change and next level mantra of the APC-led government. And as the nation counts down to another transition, the group is anxious for a cordial relationship among the critical arms of government.
We cannot talk about renewed hope without talking about good governance, without talking about security, without talking about the protection of women and girls in Nigeria. And I believe, sincerely believe, and under the Progressive Women for Good Governance, we believe Abdulaziz Yari will give us that good governance.
Meanwhile, All Progressives Congress National Defense Coalition has appealed to the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu to consider only those who work for the success of the party in his proposed government of national competence.
We are finally calling on the president-elect not to consider any of the APC member who worked with the opposition against the APC.
The group briefed the media on the political development of Zamfara State and the need for stakeholders within APC to harmonize support. In Abuja, Salu Guanara.
Nigeria Governors Forum is leveraging on international best practices to steer the affairs of governance at subnational levels through commitment to grow and expand the scope of economy and delivery of essential services. This came to the fore during the 2023 NGF induction for new and returning governors-elect. Abubakar Akwanga tells us more on that.
36 state governors on board run in different ways to either complete or begin a fresh tenure of 8 or 4 years. In between is the desire to perform and requisite knowledge to properly govern the vast economic and political space is sacrosanct, and induction such as this becomes inevitable.
The biggest area that requires improvement is going to be on the area of internal revenue. A lot of security matters are concerned to us. We are going to work very strictly on that. There is going to be a lot of concern that we are going to have also when it comes to employment generation and the empowerment of the youth.
It's for all of us to know that we have roles to play, and sometimes, some of those roles could be jointly shared. We're the same coin, we're just two different sides of a coin, right? And everybody must know what they're bringing to the table.
I know that a lot of new innovation is also needed in terms of education, and we're going to do much there, basically in the area of technical and vocational education.
Nigeria Governors Forum and other strategic development partners say best global practices must be upheld with collective desire to fight corruption to a standstill.
We need to strengthen our institutions to perform and ensure sustainability in the provision of democratic dividends. These are the critical elements that sustain advanced democracies with institutional capacity and human capital development.
It's no coincidence that one of the largest Nigerian diaspora communities in the world is right here in New York City. We are dependent on your partnership as we work towards a global economic recovery.
Nigeria's two giant figures on the global stage and other captains of industry pushed for homegrown solutions in managing economic risk, climate change, poverty, and unemployment.
You need to demonstrate to Nigerians that they are equally loved, that they can settle and do business in any part of the country without fear. I love Nigeria deeply, and I want to feel welcome in any part of this country.
All of this success rehearses the bottom line for politicians: social cohesion. When we fail to deliver for people and their rights, their futures, we erode their faith in power, in politics, and in the state.
President Muhammadu Buhari says selfless and patriotic leadership in the task of nation building is required to achieve economic resilience, attract direct foreign investment, and put the country in the right trajectory.
The role of the subnationals is critical in our social and economic development as a nation. The opportunity to the people gives you the privilege to have an instant pulse on the needs and challenges, and yours is to devise creative as well as judicious ways of addressing the myriad of issues that confront them daily.
The team Governing for Impact, Building Subnational Governance intends to further deepen the orientation of new and returning governors for national growth and prosperity. In Abuja, Abubakar Akwanga.
Journalists have been advised to be agents of national integration, especially at this post-election period. Speakers gave the advice at a dialogue on fake news, focusing on balancing the ethics and patriotism organized by the Coalition for Good Governance and Economic Justice in Africa.
The significance of the press as a watchdog of society has helped to reverse the erroneous assumption that a democratic state runs solely on the trinity of the...
We must be protective of our country, we must be patriotic about our country. We've got no other country to go to. If anything happens today, now look at the crisis of the Naira redesign. You can't tell me, no big man will tell me in all honesty that you are not affected. No, you couldn't just access money from the ATM. If there's crisis, you'll be running inside the bush. You'll not be talking about money in the ATM. If there's crisis, serious crisis. You saw the crisis of NSAS.
And that is the man I have in the studio, John Mayake. Welcome to Political Update.
Thank you so very much.
You just made a very critical point there. And I read the speech you delivered yesterday at the function there. You said, why has fake news become a major problem in our society? It's a question you put in to the participants at that function yesterday. So why did you come up with that question? Are you bothered about the increasing rate of fake news in our society?
I think everybody should be bothered about the rate at which we are going around fake news and how it has affected Nigerians and how it will continue to shape the future of our country. Across the world, fake news have come to stay, no doubt about that. There are no solutions, immediate solutions, or there are no promise anywhere to say fake news is going to end very soon. But what we try to do is put people together, bring journalists together, bring civil societies, bring government agents, and lawyers, among other stakeholders, bring them together to say, guys, we need to start talking to ourselves. We need to start self-regulation. In that, before the election, during the election, and even up to now, we saw what happened around the polity. Namely that people conjure things together and throw it out through social media especially. And we distincted that the traditional media, the television, the newspapers have been, because of gatekeeping, they've been very protective and professional in what they do. But for social media, that is the advent of Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter. You see, people just push a lot of things there, and if we're not careful, what they push out could cause disharmony in the country, could lead to conflagration crisis, could lead us to a lot of ungovernable situation where the unity of the country could be threatened, and people don't have hope in our governance anymore. So yesterday, what we tried to do was to say, let's be patriotic about our country. Let's be not just patriotic, let's be protective, because we have no other place to go. We saw what is happening in Sudan, we've seen what is happening in Ukraine. Across the world, there's no crisis, there's no nation that's not in crisis. But for us in Nigeria, we need to start talking to ourselves. Even before the election, we saw the US government and some other countries advise, give instruction to their guys to say, guys, you need to leave the country because they are not quite sure of the stability of the country. But I also pointed it yesterday to journalists, and we must congratulate ourselves as Nigerians that Nigeria is not in tumor today. I think that is a major achievement for all of us, leaders, Nigerians, and everybody. So we must continue to, in that place, that the stability of the country is everybody's business. So yesterday we taught people fact-checking. We told people when you see a fake news, how to design it, how to stop it, and why we must stop it.
Okay, but you are the country director of Coalition for Good Governance and Economic Justice for Africa. How do you think fake news, the social media, sometimes I describe it as like trying to block the water from getting out of a basket. Obviously you can't. But what do you think the government can do about it? You know, there was a time the National Assembly came up with a policy of regulating social media. Do you think we are coming into a new administration, both at state and the federal level? What do you think they should do, especially in terms of legislation, to regulate fake news in the country?
Yeah, we think that there are two ways to it. One, self-regulation. Two, government regulation. But I also said that we should self-regulate on our own interests, because if we say government should come in and regulate, don't forget, in a liberal society, you can't shut down the media. We see content creation as a way of telling the people what is happening around the world. If you shut that down, if you shut down information, you will be tilting towards a dictatorship. But in terms of legislation, there are a lot we can do. We can get the civil societies together, we can get government, we can get lawyers, sit down. We are expecting that the next, the 10th National Assembly will look at areas, especially people posting a lot of things that could put the nation in crisis. When there are legislations, you monitor WhatsApp, you monitor Facebook, you monitor Twitter, and see that contents that could lead to crisis are stopped. Not only stopped, people are made to face the law around it. It's very important, because we cannot degenerate into anarchy in Nigeria. People should be careful what they post. People should be, look at somebody who wants to win an election, and then you don't want the other man to win, and you say, oh, that guy is sick, or this man is about to die, Nigeria should not vote for him. Everybody is quite sick, if you ask me. Nobody is 100% healthy. Nobody. So we must be careful what we pray for the other man, and be careful what we pray for ourselves. What we expect for ourselves, we should also expect it for others. So fake news must be put into contest in the next National Assembly, regulations, but not banning the media houses, not shutting down the internet, no. But we can self-regulate. Apart from self-regulation, we can have legislations around it.
Okay, now, you know, sometimes politicians, they forward certain news items, could be fake or not, to journalists, because earlier on you commended the traditional media, radio, TV stations. But some TV stations and radio stations are also becoming victims of this fake news that is going on. Politicians can push you a report, probably without verifying it, and they can pay any amount just for that story to go, and probably you will see that story on the television or front page of national dailies. What advice will you also give to owners of public and private media outfits so that they don't follow the bad wagon of the social media?
Yeah, if you look at the traditional media, the newspaper, the television, and the radio stations, we see professionality around them. They are professionals, unlike the social media without gatekeeping, without editors, without professionalism. These are people who just handle their phone and throw out what they want. But most importantly, like you said, politicians are desperate, if you ask me. They just want anything done. They want to push narrative around that are quite not correct because they want to win election. And the question is, will you govern a broken down nation? Assuming you send down information to media houses, especially the traditional media houses, and you expect them to, people have trust, hope in the traditional media, especially the television and the newspaper. If these are the guys you then use to send out information that are quite not correct, antagonistic, and could bring down anybody or institutions, the newsroom must go further to say this information has come from a particular politician, go further to fact check it. It was one of the topics we had yesterday, how to see a story that is fake, and after designing it, you should know how to stop it and why you should not even forward it, let alone airing it in the media. But importantly, training and retraining of journalists, of newsmen, professionalism is core in all of this. If you like your job, if you want to be professional, you can't don't listen to the politicians, because you have to be sure of what they are giving to you. It is them. The question is, objectivity is two-way. Namely that, as I ask somebody, if you see your dad, or you give information your dad shoplift something at the shop downtown, will you report the story as a journalist? These are critical questions you should begin to, and so a politician gives you material that is fake, and you post money for it and go ahead and air it. The NBC is there. A lot of regulations are there that could be used as deterrence. But professionalism, training and retraining, objectivity is core in all of this.
Okay, guys, we are all talking about peace in the country, but the Abuja People's Forum is also appealing to Nigerians who are not satisfied with the outcome of the 2023 general elections to seek justice through the court. Briefing journalists in Abuja, the Abuja Secretary General of the Forum has asked Nigerians to rally around the President-elect Bola Tinubu to begin the healing process in the land, stressing that the country was deeply divided along ethnic, religious, and political lines. Let's take a listen on that.
As people, as Nigerians, who believe in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, seek our redress in the court of law. We believe in that. And we believe that whatever the outcomes from the court, every of them will be abide by it, rather than taking law into our hand. And the Abuja People's Forum, believe that it is our duty to collaborate with all security agents and the government to see that there is no breach of peace in the Federal Capital Territory, and to allow Constitution to take precedence in whatever the outcome.
Okay, the Country Director Coalition for Good Governance and Economic Justice, Dr. John Mayaki, is still in the studio. Earlier on in one of the reports, especially the one induction for governors-elect and returning ones, the issue of internally generated revenue and that of homegrown solution to address our own problems these are two issues that were critical, that were raised at that forum. As the name implies, your NGO is not just about fake news and other areas, also about governance and economic justice. What advice will you give to incoming president, the new administration at both federal and state levels?
In terms of what?
In terms of revenue generation, because some states depend solely on federal allocation. The IGR is really a big challenge to them.
Yeah.
What advice will you give to states on that respect?
Yeah, we are in a critical moment in this country. The rate at which government now depend on borrowing to run its affair or to run the country is quite alarming, both at the national level and at the sub-national level. State governments are also borrowing, and it's quite alarming, and it's not the best for us. We want to expect that every state should be able to take care of themselves in terms of increasing their internally generated revenue across the local government, across the state. They should do more, because if they're not able to do that, they may start borrowing to pay salaries. Now, the federal government too has to look inward and see areas they can plug and areas they can increase revenue, but not necessarily bringing burden to citizens. There are quite challenging moments, especially for the incoming government. I sympathize with the incoming administration, if you ask me, because the country is quite owing much. The present administration tried, they've done their best in terms of infrastructure, in terms of a lot of things this government has done, but we can't be borrowing to fund our system. We need to look inward again at the MNPC, where we generate a lot of revenues from. A lot of things has to be done there. We've seen what Dangote is doing in Lagos, which is also going to impact on our finances as a nation. We are the coalition. We advise the federal government, to the incoming administration, most importantly, to do a lot in terms of revenue generation, getting better ways of raising resources apart from necessarily creating burden for Nigerians.
Thank you very much, Dr. John Mayaki, the Country Director, Coalition for Good Governance and Economic Justice for Africa. Good talking with you on Political Update, and we hope to bring you again some other time to give us more lectures, as it were, on the issue of fake news and good governance. But before we go on to this edition of Political Updates, let me tell you that the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has just a moment ago sworn in Dr. Mahmouda Issa as Resident Electoral Commissioner deployed to the Federal Capital Territory. He takes over from the Resident Electoral Commissioner, the outgoing one, Yaya Bello. So we will now have a new Resident Electoral Commissioner for the Federal Capital Territory, Dr. Mahmouda Issa. That is Political Update this Friday. Hope to see you again on Tuesday with the on Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, right? Anyway, we hope to see you again on Friday with the first package. My name is Mia Ogedi. Thanks for being with us.